Can we ask everyone to mute, please? God of pilgrimage, be with us on our journey through life. Guard and defend us, shelter and feed us, challenge and inspire us, teach us and lead us. Welcome us always, allow us to rest always in your love. Guide us to walk in your way, help us to detect your presence with us always. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. May the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be glorified in all places through the Immaculate Virgin Mary. Amen. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Kulin Nation, and pay our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging, for they hold the memories, traditions, and culture and the hopes of Aboriginal Australia. We remember that this land was and always will be another's dreaming. We make this statement believing that we can walk together to a better future because Emmanuel College commits itself to reconciliation. And as an Emmanuel community, we commit ourselves to accepting everyone as their authentic selves. Each of us are created by God thoughtfully and deliberately, just as we are. Everyone's voice will be heard and everyone will feel loving acceptance and inclusion. And I'm going to hand over to Diane Martin to begin our information tonight.
Thank you, Nicole, and welcome everyone. Thank you for making time out of your evening schedules. Hopefully you've either had dinner or are looking forward to it in the next hour or so. It was important to start the night by acknowledging that we recognise how important it is that students are on an individual journey. And for them to be able to do that, we need to recognise them as individuals, as learners, and we need to structure our classroom experiences for students to reflect their needs at the stage that they're at as year 10 or moving into VCE students. So our aim by looking at our programs and what we offer is to make sure that our students are leaving the college feeling confident and feeling well prepared for their future, which I'm sure is part of your goals for your own children as well. We want our kids to finish school, to feel confident in themselves as people, to feel confident in themselves as learners, and to be ready for whether that's employment, work, or further training, or tertiary study, that they're ready to go. So one of the ways we're doing that, and if we pop the next slide up, is by looking at how we developed the curriculum at Emmanuel College. Below the line here, the slides are part of a bigger set of slides, is our year 7 to 10 program. So your students would have already done years 7, 8, and 9. And this year in year 10, they're looking at either really giving that last big look at what they want to do before they move into VCE. And some students may have already started to accelerate into VCE. Some students also may be really looking at VET courses and feel quite sure about where they're going. But everything between the years 7 to 10 is informed by the Victorian curriculum at Emmanuel College. And you can see there from this little graphic that these subjects they study in that top line there that says year 10 are all sort of pathways stages. The next step is to go into the senior secondary years. So they'll study religion, they'll study an English or a literature, they'll study a maths, and some students might accelerate there into a different maths. They'll study something from the humanities, commerce or business management suite of subjects. They will study science. They will study in the drama, the music, visual or the performing arts. They'll also look at technology. They'll also look at a physical education or a VET, sport and rec. They'll also still have the opportunity, if they wish, to choose a language to study. So the same sort of things you can see there as colour-coded shows that continuity between what they're doing in year 7 and where they're at in year 10 in terms of the breadth of things we ask them to study or we expose them to, so that they can make really good decisions coming up when they move into year 11 and year 12. I think there is one more slide here for me, which is just in the online I've got just drawn a mental blank on the name of the document, but there's a pathways document.
The course guide.
That's right, the course guide. Thank you, Nicole. And you can look in there on the course guide and you can see what's either available for your child if they've been studying in year 10 this year, or if you're from a year 9 family and you're interested in year 10, you can see what's coming up for them. So the course guide is available online and shows the whole journey as well. So thanks, Nicole. I'm going to hand over to Beck.
Thanks, Di. So as Di mentioned, one aspect of Year 10 is really looking at preparing students for making some decisions about VCE. And so Di sort of mentioned how we do that through our curriculum. And I just wanted to sort of talk to you about some of the decisions that yourself and your child will be making this year about their different pathway options. So on the screen, you can see the 5 different pathway options that students can choose for when they enter VCE into Year 11 and in Year 12. Throughout the year, yourself and your child will receive lots of information and support about each one of these options. The VCE Victorian Certificate encompasses three of those options. So the VCE Certificate, VCE VM, and also the VCE Baccalaureate, which is available for your child when they are moving into Year 12 only. The VET, Vocational Education and Training, is offered as VET courses, and there are some VET courses that we run at the college, as well as the VPC, the Victorian Pathways Certificate, which is a certificate that's run in conjunction with the VCE vocational major. In Year 10, there are some students that are already accelerating into a VCE, as Di mentioned, and there is also the option to be invited to accelerate into a 3-4 subject when your child is in Year 11. And again, more information about that invitational process will be given throughout the year. Di also made mention of our senior course guide. So each one of those pathways there is information in the senior course guide about them that you can read and find out before we have our real official nights and information sessions with your child. However, every member of the learning exec that is here, but also those that are not, are more than willing to answer any questions about those pathways and to go and discuss with you and your child about which pathways might be suitable for them and their aspirations after Year 12. I will hand over to Leah.
Thanks, Beck. So something a little bit different this year is our pastoral periods, and this is part of us working to ensure that our students leave school eventually being well-rounded individuals, ready for the real world in lots of different ways. And so it's a time each week that we spend with them in their year level groups, sometimes doing assemblies that are relevant to their particular year level or their house, depending on what's happening. But we cover a lot of really important wellbeing topics, IT and development of students in their skills in different areas, so that they're aware of what goes on in the world and how they fit into that picture and can deal with that in a well-rounded and compassionate way for our students. Nicole.
Thank you. So just a few really important reminders. As it says there, our aim is for our students to leave the college as confident and well prepared for the future as possible. And really importantly for us, being able to affect the world in really positive ways, be empowered to do that in really significant ways. But that really takes that important 3-way partnership between parents, students and the college to make that happen as effectively as it possibly can and to ensure that our students really are living life to the full. So some important points about things that, we want to support you in as well. Really important that communication between your child's teachers and yourself and the child is established. If you have a concern about anything in a classroom, the first port of call should be contacting the teacher. Have a talk to the teacher. You can email them. The emails are available. There's a little link in Sector Engage that Leah, I'm sure, will talk about a little bit later, that you'll be able to use to directly email any of your child's teachers And really important that that communication about any concerns, or if you've got any questions, or it might be to communicate something really positive too, which is also wonderful, but that begins with your child's teachers. Attendance is really crucial. Students miss out, if they miss out on vital information along the way, it's often really difficult for them to catch up. If they were going to get the full experience and the full picture of everything that we intend for them, then it's really important that their attendance is kept consistent. And a minimum of 80% is our attendance requirement across the board. And that's at every stage of schooling, as it says there. Also really important that we value those other aspects of school life, things like our opening mass, our Marinus Day activities, the athletics carnival, all of those incredible events that build community and help our students to understand how important it is to belong. And also, you know, that part of that empowering that I was talking about before comes from belonging to such a large, active and really positive community. So participation in those days is really vital, and we need to value those days just as much as a normal school day. As it says there too, really helps to build their character, the students' character and their social development as well. Always remember that help is always available, and don't hesitate to get in contact. As I said, as a first port of call, generally it would be the student's teacher or your child's teacher or homeroom teacher. But as Beck said before, all of the learning executive members, and there's quite a few of us, 9 of us, are available to discuss anything about learning and teaching at any point. Sometimes it might take us a day to get back to you if we're busy, but if you send an email, we'll certainly will respond, or leave a message via a phone message at school. But it's all, as it says, help is always available. And the last point there, rules and expectations are aimed, as it says, to support all members of the community, to make sure that the learning is consistent and can continue at all times, to make sure that everyone feels respected and valued as members of the community. And so we value enormously your support as parents in reinforcing how important it is that following rules and expectations at school assist them to learn and others to learn as well. I'm going to hand over to Leah.
So Sector Engage is our parent portal for our learning management system, which is Sector Learn for the students and Sector Teach for the staff. We are at the moment going through a learning curve with different elements of Sector with the staff and with students. So at the moment, your view will be slightly different to your students, your child's view, just so that you're aware of that. Most of the time when we get all of the elements of Sector ready and open, it will reflect. But at the moment, there are slight differences, so please be aware of that when you're looking at your child's Sector view. As I said, we are in the development phase in a lot of these new areas. So staff are doing a lot of training around Sector to make sure that we're able to use this in the most effective manner for our students. But for parents, there will be a few new things coming up on your view. There'll be a courses tab early term 2 that will pop up, and that will be where you'll be able to see the different lessons that your children will be undertaking. So for each of their subjects, their teacher will be posting on Sector what they're doing for that lesson, any resources that are there, and that will enable you to support your children a little bit better as well with what's happening in class, and sometimes keeping a tab on what they're doing a little closer to, or not doing, as the case may be. There'll also be an absence tab that will open up, and that will allow you to log any time that your child is going to be late to school or maybe absent from school. Rather than calling, it will be able to be put in through that mobile app or through the online portal for Sector Engage. So just to make things a little bit easier in some ways and to track that attendance a little better as well. The assessment tab is something you've had for a while, and that's quite often highly used by parents, but we are populating that this year in a different way so that there'll be more information available to parents on that tab, information specific to the task, to the resources that are required for those particular tasks, when they're due, and feedback and reflections that the students are doing also. What we've come to learn during these parent sessions is that the dashboard tab that has been there since day one, parents haven't been really aware of what's been on that. So this is just a little notice for you that the dashboard tab is actually vitally important for parents. It's where the homework is posted now for students. So you can log into that and have a look at what homework they've been given for that day or week. And we can also, it's the place where we go to look for any notices that are put on about your specific child. So commendations, where the teachers are praising what the students have done or thanking them for their participation in something, or also the not so good with the non-completion of homework notifications. So that's where you'd go to find those. A view of the student timetable is in there as well, and also the absences will show up there eventually too. So there's a lot of information in that dashboard tab. The timetable view that you have of students, if you actually click on the subject icon or the little box that the subject is in, you'll see a little Outlook or email notification. If you click on that, that will enable you to directly email that subject teacher. So it's a quick way to find out who it is and then be able to contact them as much as you need to. But we are moving forward in this space and developing it. So there will be more coming out to parents about this through the newsletter and different ways that we communicate with you. So there will be more to come in this area as well. Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks so much, Leah. So we're now moving in. We said 20 minutes and we were spot on. So we're now moving into that opportunity for you to ask any questions or any comments that you might have. On the screen at the moment, there's just a few ideas for things that you might want to ask questions about, but you're certainly not limited to that. Anything you like at all, feel free to ask. And as I said, we'll do our best to respond. If we can't respond tonight, we will do our best to find out and get back to you. The way that we'll work this, with the chat is not enabled. We find it's a little bit too difficult to make sure that we get to everyone and everyone in turn. But if you have a question, if you just click at the top along the top of the Teams window, there's a button called Raise with a little hand on it. If you click that button, it will tell us in order what order that you've requested to ask a question. And when I call your name, if you just unmute and ask your question, we'll answer it. So perfectly happy now to take any questions that there might be. So feel free to click raise and we'll begin. So thank you, Danielle.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Absolutely.
Sorry, can you hear me?
We can, yep, no problem at all.
I can't hear you. I don't know why. Sorry, I might have to fiddle around with my microphone.
All good.
Sorry, I don't know why it's. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I don't know what's going on. Sorry, thank you for taking my call. So my question is, if they start, I know this is more for a year 11, if they start year 11 VCE and they decide it's too much for them, what's the cutoff for them changing to VM?
Someone else want to take this one or go for it? Yeah, go for it, Di.
Yep, sure. So they can make that decision at several key times during the year. So obviously we'd like them to like to see them go through a semester, for example, to be really sure that the VCE isn't working for them. I think it's important we give our young people time to get used to the VCE, and then perhaps at mid-year change if it's really not working. It is something though that is best to sort of be proactive about and make a time to come and see one of the leaders of student progression early and say, this is what we're thinking and this is what I'm wondering about, and encourage your child to do that as well, so that
okay. Sorry, I was just meant to cut you off then. So what happens if he's not sure? So can we speak to somebody, in term 3 of this year to sort of get a feedback from his teachers, not parent-teacher interview, but just to be able to go, look, yes, he's capable of doing this. He's more than capable. Look, he's just not quite getting the right marks. It'll be too much stress for him. Do we have that option at all?
Absolutely. You'll have parent-teacher interviews throughout, which is obviously that opportunity to talk directly to teachers. But if you wanted to make an appointment to see the leader of student progression. So at SPC, that would be Daniela Bombarderi-Szabo or Leanne Matheson at NDC. Come in with your child, meet with the student progression leader and have that conversation, and they'll have done their homework before they get in there, so they can sort of run that interference with teachers, if you like. How are they going? You know, what's the overall impression? So yeah. And you can have that conversation as many times as you need to until you're confident in your decision.
So when sort of the last, like, would term 3 be the latest that you would sort of start making this arrangement, so that you've got time to pick your subjects for the following year and stuff?
So
yes. Sorry, do you want to go, Nicole?
No, go for it, selection? No, that's all right. Go for it, John.
So subject selection, really, they start thinking about that near the end of term 2.
Okay.
So, but like I said, you can make that decision a bit later, but it's probably worth starting the conversation with the your child's learning progression leader as early as you want to.
Okay. And regarding the vet, if there's a vet subject at NDC, do you provide a bus for them to get there, or is it up to the boys to get themselves to NDC to do the vet course?
Which vet subject are you thinking about?
It would be I think it's called electrotechnology. So that'll be
so
like
electrotechnology is only available for VM students.
Yes. Oh, so you can't actually do it if you decide to do VCE.
Not at this point.
Yep. Okay. So if he did VM, do you transport them there, or do they have to get themselves there?
So if they're in VM, they get themselves there for VM.
Okay.
It's
that's fine.
Then it'll 1 year level. I think it's Thursday for year 11 students, and it's their responsibility to get them there on that day. Yeah.
Okay, no problems. All right, I'm sorry to take up so much of your time.
No,
but you've
that's
answered all my
fine. No
questions.
worries at all. No problem at all.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Maria.
Good evening. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I've just got a couple of questions. My first one is, what is VM? Hearing it for the first time in the last conversation.
Yeah, VM, it stands for the VCE vocational major. So you might have heard in the past about a pathway called VCAL. So this is the replacement for VCAL. So it's a very vocationally structured course. So students who undertake VM will do a vet course 1 day a week, and they'll also do structured workplace learning 1 day a week. So they're actually working in the workplace at the possible career that they want to have, or often they're trades, but we have 4 main ones here at Emmanuel, but lots of others are possible at other schools. We're a part of a group of schools that offer different vets, but the 4 that we offer at Emmanuel are childcare, plumbing, electrotechnology. There's one that I've forgotten. Anyway, but we also offer, as I said, a whole lot in terms of our association with other schools. So they're often students that, as I said, are more going into a trade or going into perhaps going to do a TAFE course after school after they finish year 12. And it's a specific pathway that allows them to focus on those more vocational subjects rather than the academic subjects that generally have a pathway into university.
Okay, great. Thank you. That answered the question.
No worries at all. Sorry, in a very clumsy way.
No, that's all right. Just a couple of questions around, I know that they're meant to be doing work experience this year in year 10. And I know that last year there was a session on this, but obviously last year to this year, I'm not sure if the boys get a chance to review what they need to do now, and when do they need to commence to get that work experience settled and done, I think.
Yeah, so they can do work experience at any time of the year. There's some block out times, some times in the year when they're not able to. So for example, during exam time, during the time where we're preparing for exams, there are a couple of days, some of those special days that I talked about before, where they can't go out for work experience, but they were all communicated last year, as you said, in that information session and through the paperwork that was put out by the careers coordinators. So the thing to do if he's thinking about doing a work experience placement is to go and see the careers. So your son's at SPC, I'm sort of gathering.
Correct, it is.
Yeah,
yes.
so he needs to make an appointment to see Tanya Rains, the careers coordinator. He can do that via Sector. There's a button on the front of Sector where they can click and go to a calendar where they can book a time to catch up with Tanya. And she's the person for him to discuss work experience options with. But the way we do
Okay.
it now is that they can do it, as I said, at most times of the year, they can have a week. And we'll support them in that week of going out and having that work experience. We don't have a set time where everyone goes out anymore.
Okay, all right, understandable.
All right.
That was it really. And then changing and obviously picking subjects, you assist them throughout the year, especially for year 11 and year 12.
Absolutely. Beck, I don't know if you want to say something about that. Beck has just moved from being learning progression to pedagogy, so she's probably the expert here on subject changes.
Yeah, so for students that are choosing subjects for VCE while they're in year 10, there'll be different days where there'll be some information presented to them about their different options. There's different pathway options and what those subjects actually are. In the past, we have had some activities for them to do so they can really start to do a deep dive into some of those subject offerings to see if they really do want to study those subjects, if they think they might like those subjects, and to offer different people for them to go and talk to, whether that's the teachers of those subjects or their homeroom teacher or student progression. So at SPC, that is Daniela Bombardari Zabo, and at NDC, that is Leanne Matheson. So that's sort of what we do with the students. We then also have a parent night as well with the students too, where we'll go through some of this information, and all VCE teachers are there as well as representatives from universities and TAFEs. So to talk again about those different subject offerings. And then just beforehand, they will have some support in choosing their subjects as well. So there's probably 3 different opportunities throughout the year. However, like Nicole said, the leaders of student progression are always there to talk about the subjects that are on offer and if there's any questions about them as well. And the students can email them and they'll make a time to talk with them about them.
Great, thank you. That's all from me. I thank you very much for answering my questions.
No worries at all.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Good night. Bye.
Pleasure. Alicia.
Good evening. Thank you. I have a few questions as well. So in relation to subject, is religion going to be in year 11 and 12 compulsory as well?
So in year 11, the students do one VCE unit of religion and society for the whole year. So, and it is compulsory. And in year 12, the students do a school-based religious education. That's 1 period per week. So that's not a VCE subject, but it is also compulsory. Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries at all.
And so in relation to changing subject, because my son tried to change one of the subject that he's doing at the beginning of the year, but it was a bit hard. And in the end, he couldn't change it because the one that he wanted, actually, he listed at the 4th one, and the one he got was ranking 3rd, so he couldn't change it. So just say, for example, next term, if you want to change, or next semester, if you want to change the subject, like what is the process? How do we get that done so he actually studied the subject that he really wanted?
So once the reason that would have been difficult to make that change is because once the subject selections are done towards the end of, or the second half of each year, and the timetable is put in place, it's really difficult to make change. And that's why we emphasize to students how important it is that they've done everything they possibly can to inform themselves about the subjects that they're selecting. Never choose a subject because your friends are choosing it. Choose the ones that you want to do, because once you're in there, it's really difficult for us to move. There are some options for, opportunities for movement that sometimes come about because other students move out, but they're very limited. But in terms of the actual process, I might go back to Beck, because as I said, she's been doing that for the last few years, so she'll be able to give a lot more detail.
Yeah, so just like Nicole said, once that timetable has been set, there are constraints then regarding changing of subjects, because sometimes the subject that a student does want to change into is running at the same time as one of their other subjects, and so we can't accommodate that change. For semester 2, though, our student progression staff will be putting out information in the notices probably towards mid-term 2 regarding dates for semester 2 elective choices for year 10 if they wanted to do another one. And again, the students will have to complete a subject reselection form. Fill that in with the subject they would like to be withdrawn from, the subject they would like to do, have your signature, and then go and speak to our leaders of student progression. And they would then also check again if that's a possibility for that change to be had. So dates for those will be out on notices probably about mid-term 2. But yeah, students will be made aware of those times.
Right. So if the parents want to find out more about the course that they want to study, like just when we look at the course name, it's very hard for us to know what the content of those subjects. Where do we find more information about those subjects? Yeah.
So the best port of call, I'm just going back, would be the senior course guide that Beck spoke about before. So this is online in Sector on the website. The students have access to it via Sector as well. And so in this course guide, there's detail about every subject that's on offer for the year 10, 11 and 12. All right.
Yes, thank you for that.
If that doesn't answer your questions, though, it might not have every single detail, then the next port of call would be one of us or the teacher of that subject can also give some really good information as well. All right.
Yep, thank you for that. Just one last question, please. Is that okay? Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just so with the accelerating, you mentioned before that the student will receive like an invite throughout the year. Is that right?
That's right. So there was information sent out about this at the end of last year. We'll probably put something out again reasonably soon, just to remind students that they need to get that offer. They need to have those marks at the right level. So I know, Beck, I don't know whether you want to say some more, or Di, say some more about acceleration.
So acceleration, as Nicole and I've mentioned, is an invitation, and we look at a student's grades from semester 1, but also looking at how they've coped with their subjects and their approach to their studies. And so students who are currently studying a VCE subject and our year 10 students will be looking at all of that over the next, in term 2, and the invitations will go out to students for those available subjects.
Right. Because last year my son was like, he loved maths and he was really concentrated on maths, and that's why we tried to get the accelerated for maths, but in the end he couldn't get it because his other subject wasn't like over 80%. So that's why, is that the same criteria that he needs to be over 80% for all subjects in order to get the invitation?
That's right, and that's really important. That's why we put the information out, quite early, so that students and parents are very aware that that 80% requirement is across the board. It's not just in the subject you want to accelerate in. So students who accelerate need to be able to show and demonstrate through their the level that 80% that they've got across the board, that they're able to cope with those doing those VC subjects a year early. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. That's all.
No worries at all. Lisa.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Just wanted to ask why with this year for the year 10s that they were only given 2 electives to choose from, when in previous years it's been 3.
Absolutely. That was as a result of the timetable change. So the change from 4 periods a day to 6. And also what came with that timetable change was also a significant change in the amount of time that was given to each subject. So, for example, in the new timetable, more time is given to English and maths as a way of prioritising literacy and numeracy, which are, the most vital skills that underpin everything that your sons and daughters will do. And so in the reshuffling of the time with the new timetable, it wasn't possible then for us to offer the 3 electives. And so we decided that, the best way forward would be to just do the 2. Unfortunately, that happened after we had advertised that there would be 3. So
Yeah,
certainly understand that people, you know, that there was some confusion and a little bit of disappointment there. But yeah, but that was how it happened. It was
thought
all
that
about
was-
that timetable
I thought it
change.
was because of the
Yeah,
timetable, but yeah, I was a bit confused because they had chosen.
absolutely.
They were told to choose 3, and then I was like, well, what happened to the third one?
Yeah, we when at the time of subject selection, which happens quite early, as you could imagine, because we have to get everything in place ready for the timetable. At that point, we were still working out all of the implications of the new timetable. So yeah, it was just one of those you know, little elements of timing. But yeah, so apologies for that. But
That's
yeah.
But going
In
forward,
the
for
end,
year
it was the
10s,
best way we could achieve what we wanted to achieve in terms of supporting
Yep.
our students' academic outcomes. So,
okay, so for year 10s going forward, it's the 2 electives. But for
so
year
year 10 next
11s,
year next year will be slightly different again. So this year was a transition year, because next year the VCAA is requiring all schools to move to a situation whereby in year 11 and 12, students can do swap between VC and VCE-VM. And because we have accelerated program, and next year we'll also have a year 10 VM program, that a vocational stream as well. We needed to move year 10, 11 and 12 all together, which makes sense. So it gives students a lot more flexibility in the program that they will have in the future. And so, yeah, so there'll be a slight difference in year 10 next year as well to facilitate that change.
okay, but year 11 will stay the same. I think it's 5.
Year
electives.
11 will stay the same,
Okay.
yes. Yay! We're all wanting things to stay the same at the moment too. There's been a lot of change, but it's all for the better. Yeah.
Okay, well, that was my only question.
No worries at all. Sarav.
Hi there, good evening. Thanks for your time. I know it's pretty late for you folks as well, so thank you.
Oh, that's all right. Thank you so much.
That's all good. I was just wondering, just sort of following on Lisa's point about obviously having the one less elective this year. So I know my daughter, she was really, really tossing up between the second and third choices, I guess. So I'm just wondering, so if at the end of year 10, she wants to go more towards the third choice that she didn't get in year 10, what would I mean, would that even be possible, I guess, given she's
No
not done a year
issue.
of it?
Nothing that they've selected in year 10 will prevent them from doing something in year 11 and 12. Absolutely
perfect.
no
All right.
issue. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was my main question. Thank you.
No, that's an absolute pleasure. That's a really important point, because I know that's sometimes a concern of parents, but no, there's no effect on their selections for year 11 and 12, depending on
Perfect.
what they've done in year 10. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
No worries at all. Melissa.
I'll try and put my hand down this time, which I had.
No worries at all.
Monday night. I've got it on there. Yeah. Okay.
In the end, we can do it for you if you don't. It's perfectly okay.
I think you were helping me out on Monday night with that.
No worries at all.
I just had a quick question about the timetabling with certain subjects, because my son is doing food studies as one of his electives, and I sort of just assumed, oh, something like that will probably be a double period, because, you know, it's hard to cook when you're having a much shorter subject. And I noticed that he does have one double a week for that, but the other 2 sessions are the single 40-minute or 47-minute session. And I just wondered if that was just something you haven't been able to iron out yet, or if that is enough time for that particular subject, because I know he has, like, you know, my year 9 son has like a double religion, but I sort of went, oh, well, religion probably wouldn't need to be double the way food studies might need to be. So yeah, I just don't know if you can talk to that at all.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason religion might have ended up as a double, I have a double RE in year 9 that I teach. So, but that might be in line with other subjects that need a double. So other prac subjects. So the timetabling is, you know, very complex. In terms of food studies, so the one double, there's a couple of limiting factors there, not just the timetable, but also the fact that we have 2 food studies rooms. So all the food studies classes need to get through those rooms. And so we have the doubles are ostensibly in those rooms, and the singles might be in a classroom, but there's also opportunities for them to swap out. And I know the teachers at the moment, because it's the first time that this has happened, because the new timetable's in place, the teachers and Greta Arana, who is our assistant learning leader for technology and also a food tech teacher, they are doing lots of work at the moment in developing new recipes that can be done in those 49-minute periods. It will require a little bit of extra prep. So at the other end, we're also hiring and putting on more staff, that prep staff, to enable that. So there'll be more prep, a little bit more prep done at the beginning, so the students can actually achieve a recipe during the 49 minutes as well. So all that work's happening at the moment. But yeah, those, as I said, the timetable is not the only limiting factor. It's also space as well. And so yeah, what we've been able to achieve is the best we possibly can, but more than adequate to service the subjects.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks. Yeah, I just was concerned because it was sort of what I thought was a practical subject. And just sorry, I missed a little bit before. I sort of heard the tail end. Could you just go over again what you said the slight difference in year 10 would be next year also?
So that just might be, we're still working on it. So it just might be that there's a different number of periods for each subject. So what we're going to do is that we need to align year 10, 11 and 12. And so year 10 will look a little bit more we'll look closer to year 11 in terms of the number of subjects, but we're still working on the exact way that's going to actually look. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you
So
very
as
much.
soon as we've got it sorted, we will let you know. Absolutely.
Brilliant, Tara. Thank you.
Any other questions at this point? Yes, MJ.
Hi, my son is in year 10 at the NDC. He's doing a language subject at outside of the school, VSL, and he has been offered an acceleration course for year 11. So I was in touch with Leanne Matheson to swap that subject, one of the subjects that he selected for year 10. And should we need to do anything else now? Because at the moment, he was asked to go to the library during those subjects which he selected at the school level during that period. Do we need to do anything else now to update the school?
I think if there's any, rather than talk about a specific sort of student concern here in this forum, if there's anything that you still need to know about that situation, if you've dealt with Leanne, then I would be getting back in touch with Leanne to ask those questions, because I'm sure she will have all that under wraps and organised. All right, so that's probably the best thing to do, is just to email Leanne, and sure, she'll be able to answer any of your questions.
All right, no worries. Thank you.
All right, no worries at all. Any other questions at this point? All right, well, thank you so much for being here tonight. I hope that the opportunity to hear a little, as I said, a little potted version of the Year 10 pathway, and then an opportunity to ask any questions that you've had, has been useful. More than anything, what we want to achieve is that we're supporting you and being able to support your sons and daughters in achieving their personal best. So hopefully tonight has helped you on that journey as well. And we look forward to seeing you all later in the year. Whether it's going to, we're still deciding whether it's going to be the end of term 2 or the start of term 3, at the senior programs night, where there'll be lots of opportunities for your students and for your children and you to explore all those possible pathways for the future. Thanks so much for being here tonight.